last year was the first one just about tours and experiences from Barclays Bank. And I quote, "Experiences, the last untapped sector of travel." So if you know the long tail concept, I don't know if I believe it, but we had train and bus and vacation properties, and they're alleging that tours and activities is the last one. I doubt it's the last one, but it's exciting to see. And believe it or not, the sector, I think Roland mentioned, is estimated now at $170 billion US, which ranks it third in travel, tourism, and hospitality after air and lodging, but bigger than, for example, cruise and car rental. So, if it's so big, if it's why people travel, leisure travels in the first place, why has it taken until 2018, 2019 for it to become recognized as a legitimate industry sector and industry? What's taken so long? Just don't all answer at once, that's all.
Don't jump. I mean, I can start. I think it's because it's very, very fragmented. One of the big advantages that we've had in air, and the reason why Amadeus exists as a global scale company, is because there are technical standards. It's easy to create comparison. Here we're talking about very local, fragmented companies all over the world, and not digitalized at all, really offline, where people stand in queues in hotels to sign up for the tour that they're going to do tomorrow.
I agree with that. But I think it's a very highly complex industry and highly dependent on the local expertise. And it's extremely difficult. If you take a step back, when you look at the traditional tour operator, when you're a traveler, you go to this shop and you have an inflexible program. So it's extremely difficult for you to access all these services. And that's why we appeared.
Fragmented, complex.
It took so long because it was fragmented, but the reason it was fragmented is because business travelers do not book tours. So business travelers booked hotels and flights all the way through the 80s and 90s.
No, there were more people maybe going to the beach and not expecting much more than just being at the beach. Whereas today we really want to have experiences.
So it's still fragmented, it's still complicated, still big. So what changed to, like, I was at an event Monday and Tuesday called Arrival. They had almost 700 people, and it's just for tours and activities. Unthinkable 4 years ago. So we understand what took so long, but obviously something has changed. What's changed?
So it could be partly a reason is, if you look at hotels and flights, those are also matured industries now to some extent. And probably the growth is slowing down a little bit. And everyone is looking at what is going to be the next growth driver, and activities, tours, experiences are taking off now. A lot of suppliers are coming online, bookings are happening online. And I think Steve also mentioned this in the previous session where he said, where do people start looking for these experiences? It's either a search engine or a platform like TripAdvisor. And they haven't done a good job until now, but it's going to change, and it's changing. But there's a tectonic shift happening at the ground level.
You think Steve's happy Google launched Touring Bird? You don't have to answer that.
Sure, because he probably is happy because we show all the Viator and TripAdvisor content as well.
Okay, there you go.
I think one of the main change, to answer your question, is the customer expectation has fundamentally changed.
How so?
People really want unique, off the beaten track, specific experience, and they can only have that with this local expertise.
And they didn't want that a few years ago?
Less, I think.
So I think I do believe that people do want local experiences. At least they say that. And you hear this a lot. But based on our research and what we're also seeing in the product, there's a clear trend where if you ask people what you want to do at a certain destination, they'll tell you, I want a completely local and immersive experience. But then if you look at what they're actually doing, if someone is going to Paris, and if they're there for like 3 to 5 days, they're still going to go to the Eiffel Tower. They're probably still going to go to the Louvre. And then they want to have those immersive and local experiences. I
think another answer we'll get to in a minute is you can't even get to the Eiffel Tower anymore because there's too many people there. So I think that's driving, seeking out.
But I think that is one of the complications. What you were mentioning now is actually traveler motivations. No, they're very, very different. And I think they're becoming more and more complex based on what you're saying. That people want authentic experiences, but I totally agree with you. They also want to see the Eiffel Tower, and now actually sometimes they can't get in to see it. But that also brings back a very interesting topic about when does all this happen. And just actually 2 weeks ago, Amadeus launched a white paper called Destination X. And what we found was really interesting is when in the process of purchasing travel does the traveler actually start looking at this? And what we found was they do not want to talk to anybody before, unless they're maybe looking for a concert or doing a marathon somewhere, no? But in the majority of the cases, it is when they bought their flight and when they've done their hotel booking.
If you were booking 2 to 3 weeks in advance, it didn't matter if it wasn't available because you could deal with that customer issue between the 2 to 3 week period.
Yeah.
Mobile means that we now book the night before when you're sat in your hotel room or you're sat at the breakfast table going, what should we do today? So we now need to distribute price and availability. And of course, as a result of doing price and availability, that opens up all sorts of new changes. So what actually changed is mobile. You see,
They were famous
occasionally.
for waiting online and not getting in.
But that makes you want to do it.
I was referring to the commission part.
Yeah.
What do you think about the no
Imagine.
commission trend?
I think at the moment, there is a lot of destination offer, no? And when there is more offer, you need to incentivize the sales channel. So I think that we will see commissions existing for destination services for a while. But let's face it, it's obviously a much smaller amount than what we might see for hotels, no?
This is where we need to distinguish between attractions and tours. Attractions have their own standalone brand, and therefore they will be searched out. Whereas a tour, if you just run a cycle tour and there's 5 cycle tour companies in the same city, and one of them has built into their prices that they can give 30%
So
commission,
if you're
then they've got a big problem if they
End
start
of the
doing
day,
it.
it comes down
Attractions are
to
easier.
how much value you're creating in this whole ecosystem. If you do create value, then I think everyone is willing to share some part of the revenue that they're generating, which in turn is the commissions.
Well, I
Right?
think that's what was going on. They either spend marketing dollars or they don't need the.
It's all related to the service
Exactly.
that you get.
What's your company's business model?
We take out commission on the sales done by the local experts, a small
Do you
commission.
clear the transaction?
Yeah.
Let's look at this next question about UN Sustainable Development Goals and alignment, and which speaks to the larger issue of over-tourism.
Yeah, I think that working with local people is great to avoid the over-tourism and to concentrate everyone in the same place. Because working with locals also means discovering new areas, and then you diverse your destination and the place you
Yeah.
visit.
Is it just possible there are too many damn tourists? I mean, you're not allowed to say that in an industry, but isn't that a possibility?
I don't. So I think the tours and activities sector specifically could help with this. I think in 2 ways. As I said, like we think about it in 5 stages. In the dreaming phase, you're still undecided about you want to go on a vacation, but you're undecided. Maybe you have 1 or 2 places in mind, right? So Amsterdam, a lot of people go there, but can we inform the users that you don't necessarily need to go to Amsterdam? You can go to Rotterdam. That is equally beautiful.
Exactly.
And spread across tourists based on the destination selection, right?
So that's one thing.
Once you are in destination, we can actually probably, which Google already does, there is a business index. You can, with insights and all of that, you can tell users, hey, look, there are lots of people around Eiffel Tower.